In Experiment 3, eye-tracking oddity discrimination was evaluated in humans with damage to the medial temporal lobe and in a control group of healthy individuals. The independent variable was the levels of ambiguity of the image. Low ambiguity had 100% of the image's quadrant altered. Medium had 50% and high had 25% alteration. The DV measured eye movement of how much time was spent viewing the altered quadrant using Viewpoint Eye Tracker. Participants were presented 3 images, 2 identical images, and 1 with the quadrant being altered, either with low, medium, or high ambiguity. They participated in 3 12-trial blocks, a total of 36 trials. The results of this experiment showed that patients with MTL damage scored better than the control group in both the low and medium ambiguity conditions. The control group and the MTL group scored similarly in the condition of high ambiguity in the altered quadrant.
This study helps to assess whether or not visual perception affects memory by taking subjects with impairments in their perineal cortex and/or hippocampus and studying the viewing time of objects. Using these experiments, researchers can conclude that humans use more of their working memory for such tasks rather than explicit long-term memory in regards to ambiguity.
Age. The brain volume peaks in the early 20s and gradually declines for the rest of life. In the 40s, when many people start to notice subtle changes in their ability to remember new names or do more than one thing at a time, the cortex starts to shrink. Color. Mice typically have very poor eyesight and have a limited color range that they can see, similar to that of a colorblind human. Because of the 2 most focal variables of this experiment are the shape of the structure and the combinations of colors, this is a confounding variable. Limitations include not being able to effectively use color in visual experiments with mice due to the limited range of colors they were able to see. Lack of significant difference of impairment caused by lesions in the perineal cortex as opposed to the hippocampus, and mice being inconsistent in their movements. They have a tendency to explore everything around them, whereas humans can focus solely on the object placed in front of them. In order to be valid, experiments rely heavily on randomization and sample size. Despite this experiment having a smaller sample size, researchers were successful in making it a valid experiment using multiple trials on mice and humans, as well as incorporating multiple variations of trials including high and low ambiguity.
Created using Powtoon.